Hi, this is Ted. Today I want to talk about how ministry can actually hurt family. How getting involved too much in something, being too successful, and whether it's ministry or whatever, can actually hurt family and hurt personal life. It seems strange, but it can happen. I read this article about a guy who's studying all these different evangelical leaders, and one thing that he's finding, and he only mentions two examples. Unfortunately, I'd like to know more examples. I already know some of my own that I could repeat, and I'm going to talk about, but he mentions two people I've never heard of, but these two people, their families were falling apart all while they are having a successful and incredible ministry going on. And this is not unusual. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Billy Graham, at the end of his life, said that he had two regrets. One, getting into politics, and the other one was not spending enough time with his family. John Wesley had a terrible marriage, and most people will blame his wife. But could it also be that maybe he spent so much time on his ministry and neglecting her? You know, when we neglect our spouses, it has an effect on them. And who knows what? I don't know enough about John Wesley to say one way or the other, but I do know that this does happen. I know somebody who's very successful in ministry, incredibly successful, but his family is a mess. Wife and kids. And this is not unusual. Why do people sacrifice family for ministry? There might be excuses. I'm going to go through the excuses first. I don't have time. The ministry is so important. We need the money. And once again, this is not just about ministry. I don't know if I brought this up or in some videos that I deleted by now. But the fact of the matter is this can also refer to a lot of other things. If you're very successful in YouTube, if you're very successful in your work, we begin focusing on that tremendously and justifying, I need to bring the money home, etc., etc. So these are the excuses, and there are so many excuses. But why does it happen? Maybe some people are telling you how important you are. Maybe the church needs you because nobody else will do it. There are so many different reasons that we use. But I will say this, if you are getting very little back, if you're getting very little reward back, people praising you, talking about how great you're doing, all that kind of stuff, you can easily burn out because you're giving and you're giving and you're giving and you're not getting back. And that can lead to burnout. On the other hand, your ministry could be tremendously successful, and there's traps in that. Let's say my ministry is extremely successful, my YouTube is just growing outrageously. I want to focus on that. I become a Saul, if you would. Saul was given the kingdom before David as the first king in Israel. And he started out very humble and very, very powerful as a king. But he started goofing up. And you see him more and more trying to hold on to what he has, because what he has is growing and is successful. And as he holds on to it, as he strives to hold on to it, he starts selling out certain things. He starts doing things that are not appropriate. And that is his downfall. And this is a lot of people's downfall. You look at people who are very successful, preachers and teachers or whatever they're doing, some of these people have sold out something to get to where they're at. What did they sold out? A lot of times we don't see, but it might be. It might be something morally, it might be something ethically, it might be who knows what, but in ways, people will just, in tiny ways, well, I wouldn't do that before, but it will bring more people in. I believe with all my heart that Bethel Church sells out truth, creating stories of things that really don't happen, creating glitter that is supposedly from God, but not. It's just somebody throwing glitter I'm sure they have a system to be able to do that. Fog in the congregation. It's God. No, it isn't. So what happened? I don't think this was an immediate first thought of the pastor of Bethel, saying, oh, I just can't wait to start tricking people into believing in God. But something, somewhere, maybe he did it thinking this would be kind of cool. Not even thinking, not even realizing that it's going to have a huge effect and people are going to really think it's from God. And he'll just shut up. And then he starts justifying it is from God. Who knows? Who knows the different steps he took to get out of the ethical zone for success? These things are not uncommon, people. People will sell their souls eventually, but it doesn't happen all at once for a lot of us. Step by step by step. It is a slippery slope, if you would. All right. Other reasons that people will do this, because it's rewarding. You get that feedback. You might have the people in your congregation or the people higher up in your denomination or whatever giving you praise and affirming that particular ministry or that particular whatnot. And it becomes intoxicating. You become addicted to it. And you become that Saul who needs to grasp on to what you already have. And by the way, if you don't know this about celebrity culture, most people in the celebrity world don't have it made. Most of them are struggling. Where's my next hit? Where's my next whatnot to come my way? My next job? Can it be as good as the last one? That need to hold on to it is a drive that can become very dangerous. When you focus on something tremendously, for example, like your ministry, if you focus on your YouTube or if you focus on whatnot, where's your focus? Sometimes everything else seems to blur out in the world. And that's what I think was going on with people like John Wesley and people like these evangelical leaders who are losing their families. I believe that they are so focused on the success they are having in ministry that they tend to blur out the surroundings, the families that need attention, and a lot of times their own hearts, their own lives that need health, their own lives that need healthy lifestyle. And these things kind of fall by the wayside and eventually catch up to them in unusual and ways that are not good. I do want to kind of conclude with 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 33. And in this, Paul says to the married and to the unmarried, he tells the unmarried it's better off if you're unmarried, but if you want to get married, go ahead. It's better to marry than to burn. Some will say burn with passion, others will say burn in hell or whatever. But the point he's making, and he will end up saying, is that if you are married, your dedication is not going to be 100% to God, but it's going to be to God and your spouse. Because that spouse will need time. And I believe as Christians, we need healthy families. We desperately need healthy families. And by focusing too much on your ministry, focusing too much on one area, whatever it might be, you can lose your family. You can lose things that are important to you. And so the last thing I do want to say is I think 1 Corinthians tells us it's okay to focus on both. Spend time with your spouse and your family. Spend time with God. Spend time in ministry. And don't get totally lost in the success of just ministry. This is Ted. Y'all have a good one.